One challenging form that comes to many taxpayers is the broker statement. I will show you how to enter most of the items on the broker statement into tax software. We will enter 1099 div, 1099 INT, 1099 miscellaneous, and 1099B stock transactions into FreeTaxUSA and TurboTax and compare them side by side. I will use a dummy fidelity broker statement that is modified based on an actual statement. On the left, I have FreeTaxUSA tax software, and on the right, I have TurboTax. Both have the same W-2 info already added. For FreeTaxUSA, you can find most broker statement items under common income. With TurboTax, majority of broker statement information goes under investments and savings section of income. In both cases, we have 1099 div here, 1099 INT, and stock or investment cells on 1099B. Let's start with the 1099 div, which most people receive under broker statement. Select 1099 div in either software and click Add Dividend Income or Add Investments. In FreeTaxUSA, you are taken directly to 1099 div form, but in TurboTax, you are asked to search for a financial institution. Once I add fidelity, I can import it from my broker, which is very helpful for the more complex forms or for people that may not feel comfortable entering the information themselves. Even though I initially selected 1099 div in TurboTax, now I have to specify it again. That happens a lot in TurboTax. You keep going in circles. Now I'm giving an option to again import it from my broker, upload it from my computer as a PDF or an image, or use my phone to snap a picture of it and use a QR code to load it up. I understand the first option and the second if you are uploading a PDF, but the last option and uploading an image doesn't make sense. If my broker statement is, let's say, 10 pages long, will I take a picture of just the summary of 1099 div section and ignore the supplemental pages? Do I take a picture of all the pages of the broker statement? It is not clear. I will select type it myself. Again, if you have a very complex statement, importing and then reviewing would be recommended. Then add the information from your 1099 div section on the broker statement, which most of the time is listed first. Match the line number information to the box in the software. Add the ordinary and qualified dividends and any capital gains you have received. Notice how with TurboTax, I only have 3 boxes listed, while in FreeTaxUSA, I have many more. The first time I did that, I missed the My Form has info in other boxes checkbox and then had to go back. Make sure if you have information in the other boxes that you also add it in the software, especially if you have something listed in box 12, which is exempt interest dividends. What is that? Both software are pretty good on providing additional information if you need some clarification. Dividends from US bonds are subject to federal tax, but some states don't tax them. So by entering this additional information, the software will make sure it is transferred to your state tax return, where it could be subtracted from your income. Check the supplemental pages of your broker statement for box 12 additional information and verify whether your state doesn't tax them. One nice little summary that TurboTax provides is the info on whether the capital gains you listed would be taxed or not. The rates on long-term capital gains are taxed differently than your ordinary income or short-term capital gains. Long-term capital gains have more advantageous rates and can be taxed at 0%, meaning they won't be taxed at all if your income is at certain threshold. As in our case, since Jane made less than $44,625 in 2023, her long-term capital gains won't be taxed at all. So the $1,052 is tax-free for her. If she had short-term capital gains, which are investment held for less than 1 year, These would be taxed at the same rate as ordinary income, in her case at 10%. The qualified and ordinary dividends from the 1099 div will appear on Tax Form 1040, lines 3A and 3B. Additionally, they will be reported on Schedule B in Part 2 for ordinary dividends and on Schedule D Part 2, line 13 if you had any capital gain distributions. The second form that we need to enter is 1099 INT, reporting interest income. It is the same as the ones you receive from banks. Enter the information as listed on your broker statement. Most people will only have interest listed in box 1. To see more boxes in TurboTax, check the My Form Has Info in Other Boxes checkbox. Enter the early withdrawal penalty in box 2, which will be subtracted from your total income as an adjustment on Schedule 1, Part 2. Another box that can sometimes have data is box 8, listing tax-exempt interest. Click the More Info icon to learn how it is taxed. Tax-exempt interest received from municipal bonds is not taxed on your federal return, but it may be taxed on your state return. Once you add it here, the software will make the adjustment on your state taxes. Another form that may appear on your broker statement is 1099 miscellaneous, which may be surprising. You may receive some royalties in box 2 or other income in box 3. Even if it is minimal like we have it here, you have to enter it into the software. Tax Form 1099 Miscellaneous and 1099 NEC often appear under Business Income section in the tax software. In TurboTax, though, it is listed under Other Common Income. You can also always search for a form and jump to it directly. Unfortunately, since now we are adding 1099 miscellaneous and will also need Schedule E or C, we are upgraded to the premium version of the TurboTax software. Enter the information from your 1099 miscellaneous section on your broker statement. Once you add the royalty amount in box 2, the software will ask you what kind of income it is. Disclaimer: this is not tax advice, but generally, if the royalty income is from an investment, or if you are not actively engaged in the business that generated the royalty, then the royalty is reported on Schedule E. If the source of the royalty is derived in ordinary course of the operation of a business, such as receiving royalty from a book sales as an author, then the royalty income is reported on Schedule C. Similarly, if you have other income in box 3 that relates to ordinary business operations, that would require adding a Schedule C and probably including some business expenses. However, there may be cases such as receiving other income that doesn't relate to business activity, but rather maybe an investment, an interest, award, or bonus for opening an account. In these cases, you would not generate Schedule C, but rather put it under Other Income on Schedule 1. We will generate Schedule E as this is royalty related to an investment. The royalty will be listed on line 8 of 1040 for 2023, and Schedule E will be generated in our case. Since this is a broker statement, you can also have capital gains and losses listed from investment sales. It lists detailed information on securities and properties sold, such as stocks, bonds, etc. Form 1099B has detailed dates of sales and acquisitions, if available, selling price and original purchase price, or otherwise called cost basis amount. When you enter Form 1099B into tax software, it creates Schedule D, where all the gains and losses are recorded. Again, in TurboTax, you will be upgraded from the free version to the $129 premium version for adding the sold investments. Most software has an option to enter transactions one at a time, but if you have more than 3 to 4, You also have an option to enter a summary of all the transactions. When you do that, all you have to do is enter the short-term and long-term totals from the broker statement summary section. Notice two lines for the short and long-term totals, ones that have bases reported to the IRS and ones where bases are not reported to the IRS. What does that mean? Bases reported to the IRS means that the broker has electronically reported your purchase price to the IRS. If it says that it doesn't report the basis, it means that the broker didn't send that information to the IRS or that the security was acquired prior to 2011 when it was not mandatory to do so. Let's start with the short-term covered transactions where bases have been reported to the IRS. List the sales proceeds from the summary section and what was the purchase price for these securities. If you have a zero or incorrect cost basis, check that you are making an adjustment and include supporting documentation with your filing. Another frequently listed item are wash sale adjustments, which means that the investor sold the security at a loss and then within 30 days before or after the sale, purchased the same or substantially similar security. If a wash sale is listed, it means that the loss is disallowed as a deduction on the original sale. However, the loss will be added to the cost basis of the newly purchased security. So in our case, the difference between the cost basis and sale price is a loss of $1,131.08. However, you can see that the net realized loss is only $941.33 because the $189.75 of wash sale loss is disallowed. Once we finish the short-term transactions, we will select to enter another cell and provide information for the long-term securities that are not covered. After we are about to finalize, we get a message that we need to upload our 1099-B because we are reporting the sales section totals and either made an adjustment or cost bases are not reported to the IRS. In TurboTax, if you say you will upload it later, it won't let you complete the return until you fix that. At this point in TurboTax, we get a summary for all of our capital gains thus far, and it is a great news for Jane that her $3,154 of capital gains is not taxable, as she is at the 0% bracket for capital gains. After you finish all the sections in each software, you will see a tax summary of all your income and deductions. It is much easier to get to it in FreeTaxUSA than it is in TurboTax. If you can't find it in TurboTax, go to Tax Tools, under the menu on the left, and select Tools. Then view Tax Summary. Comparing them side by side, it's evident how poorly designed the TurboTax tax summary is. It's baffling that a multi-million-dollar company would select a faint light blue ink as the color of choice to display the tax information, unless it's intentional. Tax summary is nice, but majority of taxpayers want to preview their actual 1040 once they enter all the information into the tax software. And again, TurboTax makes it difficult. To preview all your forms, select View Tax Summary, then navigate to the menu on the left and choose Preview My 1040. Again, the TurboTax presentation attempts to de-emphasize negative tax information by using a very faint blue ink, which is hard to read. The TurboTax 1040 preview shows lines and 1040 sections, but doesn't display it exactly as the IRS forms. It includes additional subsections with calculations, which can be overwhelming and unclear about which line items they correspond to. While you can view 1040, Schedule 1, 2, and 3, all other forms like Schedule B, D, or E are not displayed. FreeTaxUSA is very transparent and it is easy to get to view a PDF version of your 1040. You can preview many sections of the tax summary as a PDF by selecting the View or Download icon. Although the company protects its product with a watermark to prevent taxpayers taking screenshots of the 1040 forms, it does provide all the information you have entered into the tax software as it would appear on actual IRS tax forms, and I can easily preview my Schedule D. Not only that, you can scroll down to the bottom and preview and download the entire 1040 and all the forms included. Incredible! In TurboTax, I also tried going to the print center and seeing if I can download a draft for review, but you won't be able to get a copy without first paying for it. I started both tax returns in FreeTaxUSA and TurboTax with the free version. To check your fees in FreeTaxUSA, go to the menu on the left and scroll down to Final Steps. Then select Order Products. Right now, I only included my federal tax return. When I scroll down, I can see that it is still free. After I included all the broker statements, 1099 div, 1099 INT, 1099 miscellaneous, and stock sales from 1099B, the return still stayed free. The FreeTaxUSA pricing is very transparent. All the product options are listed here, and if I wanted to add anything, I just click Add to Order or uncheck to remove the product. There are no surprising upgrades. Let's compare this to TurboTax. To see the TurboTax fees, go to Tax Tools, and select My Fees, or continue with the filing process and select Review My Order. Filing with TurboTax would cost me $129 for the same tax return that would be free with FreeTaxUSA. I began with a free version of TurboTax, but was upgraded twice. First, when I needed to include tax form 1099 miscellaneous and generate Schedule E. And second, when I needed to enter stock sale transactions from form 1099B. If I wanted to add state return, I would need to complete the state section in each software first. That process, of course, takes much longer in TurboTax. FreeTaxUSA shows me the combined refund in green, but the state tax due is in red. Super transparent. I can quickly tell what I owe and where. TurboTax almost never lists owing tax in red. It will display it in black instead, so not to alert taxpayers. To add the state tax return to my FreeTaxUSA return, it will be $14.99. Before you get to any section or screen in TurboTax, you get bombarded with all these animations and gamifications, such as showing you how you crushed the tax return process and how amazing you are. TurboTax attempts to sell products to taxpayers much more aggressively than FreeTaxUSA, and the processing time between screens is longer. Finally, I reach my total fees with state, which with TurboTax amount to $64 for the same Illinois tax return that FreeTaxUSA charges $14.99. TurboTax doesn't display how much I owe to the state. Instead, it combines the two tax returns and shows only my combined refund. If you want to pay for your tax return with your refund, the process is much more transparent with FreeTaxUSA. Right on the total fees screen, under the Pay with My Refund option, you see the additional cost of $24.99. When you hover over the More Info button, you get an explanation how the process works. On the other hand, on the TurboTax screen, the Pay with Refund option doesn't provide pricing information. After you click the Terms Apply link, it still doesn't provide the price information either. Only after I click Processing Fee do I see that it would cost me $40. It took 3 steps to get to the price info. Couldn't TurboTax list the price on the main screen like FreeTaxUSA? Of course they could. They chose not to. That makes me believe that TurboTax doesn't like being overly transparent. So, who comes out on top? For majority of taxpayers, FreeTaxUSA is an excellent choice. However, for people with highly complex, extensive broker statements, TurboTax offers a smoother importing process. Thanks so much for watching.